So I have this pitcher that I threw last week. It's been sitting in the damp box for a week. Pretty good and firm. Still soft enough that on the edge at the bottom here I can press a little bit and make an indent, um, but also firm enough that I can hold its shape. So I'm going to turn it upside down and center it on the wheel. Just tapping it a little bit, really just paying attention to this edge here. There's a little bit of a wobble to it because of the spout on the top, but I think I'm just going to leave it in this case. If that was much worse, I could take some clay and put a level on the piece to level the bottom a little bit. So keep an eye on that when you made the spout of the pitcher. Um, if it made the lip on level, you might need to level it out a bit. Put 3 pieces of wet clay down to hold the pitcher in place. And I'll start with the trimming. So before I put it on there, checking where the extra thickness is when I throw pitchers. Sometimes I'll have a bit of extra clay to trim off the bottom that I've left there for stability to be able to put some of the shape into the pot. So I know that I'm going to trim right about to that line right there, and I can take off a good half an inch or so from the outside diameter, which is about a 1/4 inch of thickness of wall. So when you start trimming, you get rid of the first layer is a lot of the dented clay, some little bumps and undulations in the clay from when it was wet. Try to establish the outside of the foot first. Create that little bit of a round in on the bottom, which will give the pitcher more of a lighter look, like curving it in rather than having it come straight to the table. And to achieve more of that, I could carve off the outside of the foot here, bringing that foot diameter a bit. As I'm trimming, I can stop and press every so often to get an idea of how thick it might be. I'm actually going to take it off the wheel here and feel it again just to make sure that I am getting about the correct thickness. So it's a matter of looking down the top of the pot into the inside and feeling with my fingers, and it does feel about right. Maybe there's a little extra clay here still, but not getting too thin. It's always harder to get it back on center, especially because if you start trimming a little off center like I did on this. Okay. Cheat. Cheat by using the needle tool. Make a mark, put the needle tool directly in front of you. That mark you made, center it, and smooth that over. And start spinning it again. Now we're pretty good because the needle tool is cutting it all the way around. I want these lugs of clay to stick well to the bottom of the wheel, so I'll paint a little bit of water on them when I use them, especially the second, third, fourth time, adding water to them to keep them soft, but also that water will seal to the metal and keep it stuck there pretty good. You want to not get the water touching the clay because it'll stick to the clay. I'll go back to where I just take off, make this a little more smoother line rather than having that push out there at all at the bottom. Grab my sponge. Cut the inside of the foot first. Try to move the camera here so you can see more of a top view. Push that down. Alright, so I'm going to use the little trimming tool here. I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm doing this first to just kind of remove the clay using the smaller tool makes it a little bit easier. Stop and press lightly on there, put in some pressure. Don't want to break through, of course, but also don't want to leave extra thickness at the bottom. That's the cause of a lot of cracking, is the very bottom of a trimmed pot from here to here can be thicker than the walls leading to it, and you really want it to be, if you were to cut it in half, have that consistent cross section. So pressing lightly is a good way to judge that. The other way to judge that is looking at the outside of the foot and matching the point right there where my tool is touching to the point where my fingernail is touching in there, and imagining that as like a continuous plane with then this foot ring stuck on top. So you can use that as a judge. I'm also going to cut into this right now, make it a little bit lower, but also cutting into the corner and removing that excess material. Digging out the excess material from the corners will make your picture a little bit lighter, which is good. I don't want to make the foot too narrow. It might be actually a little too narrow for a picture now that I'm looking at it, but we'll see, because when it's too narrow, the diameter, then it's more wobbly. So I'm going to leave that thickness on there. I do want to trim, just skim the very top of the foot to remove the contaminated clay on the outside from how it was sitting on the board or the plaster. Get those crumbs out of there. Now I'll go with my sponge and add some water to it. So I'm adding water to it with the sponge and then compressing with my finger. So my skin is compressing the clay, smoothing it, giving me some more defense against cracks forming. Also, bringing the surface together from the thrown area below to the trimmed area. Glaze covers that sometimes, but maybe you're going to leave it unglazed, or you use a Celadon, a translucent glaze. You can see those trimming lines through there. You can really see the grog poles where most clay bodies have some grog in it, so there's going to be some scratches left behind. The grog is pulled through the wet clay. Okay, bring this down. Sometimes I like to leave that sponging part until after I've taken the piece off and checked it one more time. Let's see here. Pick it up. Feels pretty good. It's got some weight to it because it's a decent size. Definitely didn't get too thin. See how it sits on the table and kind of judge now. You look at the form and see, do you have any extra clay sitting down here? Feels like it kind of pushes out from the inside there, so I'm not going to worry about that. Put a handle on it.